Florida built more new homes than almost any other state since 2020. New home inventory peaked at 54,824 listings in January 2025. Between 2021 and 2023, Florida had 6 cities on the pod's top 20 move-in list. In 2025, only 2 remain. They built the apartments, they built the condos, and for these 10 cities, nobody came. That is a different problem than people leaving. When people leave, you can blame the economy. When people won't even show up, it means the pitch is broken. We're counting these 10 cities down from least to most severe, and we start at number 10 with a place that sold families on theme park living but forgot to mention the commute. In the 10th place, Kissimmee built its promise on the dream of theme park living for families, blending new condos and master planned neighborhoods with easy access to Disney and Orlando's attractions. Yet, the reality on the ground tells a different story. By 2025, US 192, the main east-west artery, is running at 78% of its rush hour capacity, with traffic volumes pushing the limits of what the roads can handle. The commute, not the cost, has become the sticking point. The median days on market for new condos has climbed 12% year over year, a sign that buyers are hesitating. The family-friendly pitch falters in the face of gridlock, school drop-off delays, and afternoon standstills. For Kissimmee, the gap between the lifestyle advertised and the daily routine has become a breaking point, leaving new developments waiting for families who no longer want the drive. Number 9, Port St. Lucie built its pitch on the promise of affordable beach life, new homes, and steady growth. That vision ran aground when updated FEMA flood maps expanded high-risk zones by more than a third, adding 12 square miles to the city's flood footprint after Hurricane Ida. The gap between the marketing and the new environmental reality became clear as buyers began to hesitate. In just 12 months, the number of unsold new homes doubled from 3,800 to 7,600. Developers who once counted on a steady stream of arrivals now face a glut of inventory, with Redfin tracking the sharpest inventory spike in the region. The breaking point isn't falling prices, but the sense that the market is flooded with risk, as much as with homes. For Port St. Lucie, the dream of easy coastal living has been overtaken by the reality of flood maps and empty driveways. 8th place, Palm Bay built its pitch on affordable rentals and easy access to the Space Coast's tech corridor. The promise was simple: new apartments would meet the needs of a growing workforce, keeping rents low and vacancy rare. But by 2025, the jobs never arrived in force. Employment growth stalled at 0.8%, trailing far behind Florida's 2.5% average. As a result, the city's rental market lost its balance. The ratio of renters to available jobs dropped by 15%, leaving more units empty than planned. Rental vacancies climbed to 9.2%, while median rents plateaued at $1,210 a month. For Palm Bay, the gap between housing supply and job creation became the breaking point. The city's affordability pitch faltered, not from rising costs, but from a labor market that couldn't keep pace with the homes built for it. Number 7, Northport promised the accessible waterfront lifestyle, new neighborhoods with canal views, and the sense that Sarasota Bay was within reach of the middle class. But by 2025, the financial foundation of that pitch began to slip. Median home prices fell from $315,000 to $291,000 in just 1 year, marking a 7.5% drop, the sharpest decline in the metro area. For buyers, the gap between local incomes and home costs widened as the price-to-income ratio jumped from 3.6 to 4.2, erasing the sense of attainable ownership. Unlike cities where underwater mortgages dominate the headlines, Northport's story is about lost expectations rather than outright crisis. The waterfront dream remains visible, but the math no longer works for the buyers it was built to attract. As prices reset, developers and homeowners face a new reality. The arrivals they counted on have stopped coming. Number 6, Lehigh Acres built its pitch on rapid, affordable home construction, promising space for every new arrival priced out of coastal Florida. From 2020 to 2023, builders added over 9,200 homes, an extraordinary surge for a community of just 125,000. But as the migration wave slowed, the gap between supply and demand became impossible to ignore. Active listings topped 2,400 by early 2026, pushing the months of supply past 28 and leaving new subdivisions dotted with unsold properties. Net migration, once a growth engine, slipped to negative 3% in 2024. Unlike cities where prices collapsed, Lehigh Acres faces a quieter breaking point. Too many homes chasing too few buyers, with developers offering concessions just to move inventory. The promise of endless demand broke down, not with panic selling, but with silence. Rows of empty houses waiting for residents who never arrived. Number 5, Clearwater built its pitch on the promise of stable, sun-soaked home ownership, drawing in buyers with its Gulf Coast location and steady development. But by 2025, the cost of simply owning a home has become the breaking point. Homeowners' insurance premiums in Clearwater have jumped 48% in just 3 years, climbing from $2,300 to $3,390 on average, one of the steepest increases in the state. For many, this surge is not just a line item, it is a deal breaker. Mortgage surveys now show 27% of pending closings delayed or canceled as buyers rethink affordability. New home sales have dropped 19% year over year, and sellers report that the true obstacle is not price, but the burden of insurance on what you buy. In Clearwater, the gap between the promise of easy coastal living and the reality of mounting insurance bills has left new neighborhoods waiting for residents who can make the numbers work. Number 4, Fort Lauderdale pitched itself as the next Miami for investors, luxury condos, short-term rentals, and a steady stream of buyers seeking sun and yield. But by 2025, the tide has turned. Redfin data shows the investor share of home purchases plummeted from 23% in early 2022 to just 8% in 2025, marking the sharpest retreat among large Florida metros. Median prices paid by investors have dropped 9%, and resale inventory has climbed 11% as properties linger on the market. The city's promise of easy profits and endless demand has faltered, leaving a visible gap between the investor-fueled boom and the reality of cooling interest. For Fort Lauderdale, the breaking point arrived when market participants, once the engine of growth, simply stopped showing up, setting the stage for a new affordability crisis among locals. Coming to the top 3, Naples built its reputation on luxury living and the promise of a golden retirement, with manicured golf courses and high-end shopping woven into its identity. Yet by 2025, the affordability gap has swallowed that dream for most locals. The median home price stands at $475,000, while typical household income hovers around $225,000, creating a 105% affordability gap, the largest on this list. Only 3 in 10 residents can realistically buy a home in the city they call home. Zillow data shows inventory has surged 200% above 2019 levels, flooding the market with listings that linger as buyers retreat. In Naples, the pitch of effortless upscale living has become a barrier, not a draw, as the socioeconomic divide leaves new arrivals and longtime residents on opposite sides of a widening chasm. Number 2, Cape Coral's pitch was built on the promise of endless waterfront living and the certainty of rising home values. By 2025, that promise has run aground. According to a Wall Street Journal analysis, Cape Coral now holds the highest share of homeowners with negative equity anywhere in the country. 8% of owners owe more than their homes are worth. The median home price has dropped 12% in a single year, and foreclosure filings are up 14% year over year. For many, the breaking point isn't just a paper loss. It's families walking away from homes they bought at the peak, unable to refinance or sell without taking a loss. The city's rapid expansion and speculative buying spree have left a visible gap between the dream of easy equity and the reality of financial risk. In Cape Coral, the arrivals never came, and the market is now defined by the owners left underwater. And finally, in first place, Daytona Beach stands as the clear example of a city where every pillar of the relocation pitch has cracked at once. For decades, the promise was unmistakable: affordable coastal living, famous events like the Daytona 500, and a steady stream of new arrivals drawn by both sun and spectacle. But by 2026, the numbers tell a story of mounting rejection. Median home prices have slipped by 9% in a single year, erasing much of the recent equity gains. Net migration has swung negative, with a 16% drop as more people leave than arrive. Homeowners face insurance premiums up 35%, driven by a surge in storm-related claims that have climbed 22% year over year. Each of these factors alone would test a city's appeal, but together they form a perfect storm, one where the gap between Daytona's iconic pitch and the lived reality is wider than ever. The city's future now depends not on how well it can sell the dream, but on whether it can rebuild the trust of buyers who have learned to look elsewhere. In Daytona Beach, the breaking point is no longer hypothetical. It is visible in empty listings, rising costs, and the absence of the newcomers who once defined its growth. Across all 10 cities, one pattern stands out. The pitch outpaced the reality, each place built for arrivals that never materialized, exposing the gap between promise and experience. In today's Florida, success isn't about growth for growth's sake, it's about which vision of Florida actually delivers. Thanks for watching.